Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to talk about the information that was revealed on day 4 of Heist League spoilers. This is a slower day than usual. It's a Saturday in New Zealand where the game studio is, and as a result, there's only 3 real pieces of news. 2 have come from Grinding Gear Games. There's these 4 alt quality gems and this 1 Divination card. And additionally, 2 have come from the Twitch streamer Zizaran, who was given 2 alt quality gems to preview as well. Firstly, let's have a look at Zizaran's reveals. There is Purifying Flame. This is an alt quality gem. I've never really been a fan of Purifying Flame. It's a spell that has a number of synergies with Consecrated Ground, and this alt quality grants a chance to cause Consecrated Ground at your feet. I feel that this is a little bit redundant. The reason I say that is that if you're playing Purifying Flame, you're probably going to be pushed towards the Inquisitor Ascendancy anyway, and the Inquisitor Ascendancy has ways of generating Consecrated Ground. Additionally, you're probably going to be using flasks that generate Consecrated Ground as well. So for that reason, whilst you won't have a maximum uptime on it, I don't think that a small chance to generate Consecrated Ground around you is quite enough. So for that reason, I'm going to call this one probably a miss, but by all means, prove me wrong. Go and play this skill if you want, and laugh at me when it turns out that it is the meta of the new league. Rain of Arrows, though, this one is a doozy. This is one of the very best of the alt qualities that's come out, and it's so strong that it's almost enough, in my opinion, to look into enhanced support. It actually isn't quite there. It's not quite over the line, but it's close enough that I at least thought about it and ran some numbers before deciding that no, you don't want to use it. So, Rain of Arrows. The skill gem fires a huge clump of arrows up into the air, which then land at the point you were targeting and around nearby it as well. So it's an AoE spell, AoE attack that actually plays very similar to Purifying Flame in a lot of ways, even though Purifying Flame is a spell. You target an area on the ground, you fire at it, and then a short time later, everything in a short range around that area is hit by your skill. The difference, though, with Rain of Arrows is, of course, being an attack, it scales differently. And additionally, it has this new mechanic that there is a percentage chance for it to fire an additional sequence of arrows. What this means is essentially you get a free repeat of the skill. Vaal Rain of Arrows, so the Vaal version of this, has multiple repeats already built into it. The other way that you can get this chance to fire an additional sequence of arrows comes from the Helmet enchant for this skill, which is one of the most powerful Helmet enchants. The Merciless tier gives a 10% chance to fire an additional sequence of arrows, and the Eternal tier grants a 15% chance. So overall, you can get Rain of Arrows plus the sequence of arrows with this alternate quality. You get as much as 11% additional chance to fire as an extra sequence of arrows, in addition to the 15% chance that you get from the Eternal tier Labyrinth enchant. That's like a 26% more multiplier on your damage. That's really good. There'll be occasions where the second volley of arrows will miss a moving target. So your first volley will hit and the second volley will miss. So it may not quite be as good as a 26% more multiplier, but it's pretty good. So yeah, this is really good. I think this is better than the normal quality on Rain of Arrows, and it's going to be so good that you would actually rather see an alt quality Rain of Arrows corrupt into a 23% quality than to go to level 21. The very best possible Rain of Arrows gem in the new league will be a Vaal Rain of Arrows that has 23 quality, which can only be created through the Temple of Atzawadal's Lapidary Lens, the gem chamber. So that's the sort of dream if you're thinking of playing Rain of Arrows. Even if you're not building around Vaal Rain of Arrows, just having it there as a button to fire is well worth it. And it's better than having a level 21 version of the gem. So that is the exciting one, and out of Zizaran's pair, with Purifying Flame being less exciting, at least to me. Next up we have the 4 that were revealed by Bex from Grinding Gear Games. We have Infernal Blow, which has this explosion has a percentage chance to apply uncharged debuff on hit. This is a very complicated skill to parse if you're just reading through what it does. But basically, this gives a small chance to have some sort of chain reaction applying when you kill enemies with it. So when you kill an enemy that has been... When you hit an enemy with Infernal Blow, there are two different tiers of debuffs. There's the charge debuff, which is an active explosion that you're building up to. And then there's an uncharged debuff. The uncharged debuff is basically a, when this monster dies, it goes boom and deals damage to surrounding enemies. The charge debuff is both the uncharged debuff and also can be detonated early. So it can be detonated while the enemy is still alive. So what this does is it gives a chance to get a lesser version, the uncharged debuff, the explode on death one. It gives a chance for that to self-propagate from explosions. I think that overall, the 20% quality on this is going to be a significant chance for explosions to self-propagate, but is not going to be enough on its own. You could consider going a little bit silly and using enhanced support to get an extra 24%, quality on the gem. 44% is actually a really high chance for for propagation chains to happen. And you could even use a weapon that has +2 to the level of socketed support gems to make your enhance even better. And at this point, you're looking at as high as a 63% chance for enemies that are killed by... Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen here. For enemies that are hit by the explosion to gain the uncharged debuff. Maybe that's enough, and I'd be interested to see what people can do with this combination. So you would either need Azra's Disfavor or a weapon that has the Katarina craft that gives +2 to the level of socketed support gems, either or, with Enhance and Infernal Blow. Whilst that's kind of cool, though, it's a very high opportunity cost. You're locking yourself into using either Azra's Disfavor, which is a somewhat out-of-date weapon. It was really good once, but weapons have gotten a lot better since then. Or you're giving up an entire mod on your weapon for the Katarina craft. So there's a high cost involved there. You're using a do-nothing support gem, an otherwise do-nothing support gem. So it's going to be difficult to justify. But I'm sure that there will be some hilarious footage that people will organize where they're using it in the delve mines and you see enemies exploding like popcorn because you managed to make them chain react, especially the weaker enemies in delves. That will be really funny to see. Next up we have Shock Nova. So this doubles down on the shock part with the quality. A ring has 40% chance to shock, will only benefit you when you're not dealing a critical strike. This is not as good a line as it sounds, because if you're working on inflicting ailments with lightning spells, you are probably working very hard to get your critical strike chance into the stratosphere on this skill. As a result, I don't think that this chance to shock line is particularly great. The second line, though, is interesting. Ring shocks as if dealing 100% more damage. I did the maths on this so you don't have to. I dug up the formula for shock, and it turns out that this is a 31.9% more multiplier to the intensity of shocks, although it can't exceed the 50% cap that way. So if you would shock the enemy so that it increases damage by 20%, instead it will increase damage by 26.38%. That's okay. That's fine. I'm reasonably happy with that, and it's a compelling quality to use. If you're looking to use Shock Nova, you probably want to play around with the alternate quality Shock Nova because it does a lot. Next up we have Reckoning, which is a pretty underwhelming skill with a pretty underwhelming additional bonus on it. 14% chance to debilitate enemies for 1 second on hit. So 14%, that means presumably 40% at 20 quality. Debilitate, I had to look up and then realized it was actually on the bottom of Bex's image after I'd looked it up, which was a bit silly. But it causes enemies to have 20% less movement speed and deal 10% less damage for 1 second. That's kind of great, except that a lot of the hardest hitting enemies in the game, i.e. the ones that you are most concerned with getting a retributive counterattack on when you block their attacks, a lot of those actually don't attack more frequently than once per second. So if you're fighting the Elder, who I believe takes 1.65 seconds per swipe at you, if he hits you, and let's say that you successfully block it, so he hits you, you block it, you take no damage, or if you're using glancing blows, you take half, and you get your Reckoning counterattack off, and you inflict Debilitate, then by the time that the Elder actually goes to strike you again, Debilitate's gone. There will be situations where this will be okay, but broadly speaking, I think it's just a completely uninteresting effect. Next up we have the more interesting, and I have saved the most interesting of these alternate quality skill gems for last. That's Reave, and the alternate quality here, 100% of physical damage converted to a random element. This is really significant, and it's build enabling. Firstly, it completely removes any problems you might have otherwise had with physical reflect, and secondly, it allows you to inflict shocks, ignites, and freezes all on the same character. This is really, really, really good. If you can find a way to scale your damage so that you're dealing enough damage to inflict elements reliably on enemies, then this is going to reward you really well. And the reason for that is the node Sadist. This is a large cluster jewel node that is also available on Megalomaniac, and it provides, if you have chilled, shocked, and ignited enemies recently, then it provides a total of 60% increased elemental damage. That's huge. That's a lot of extra damage. And so the way that I would think of building around this would be that you would be playing a character that deals cold damage, using a weapon that deals cold damage. The reason you're wanting to deal cold damage is that the most powerful of the various elemental ailments is frozen. So you want to be dealing as much cold damage as possible, and then any shocks and ignites you get are just little bonuses. You're going to be scaling all three elements simultaneously, and using, as I say, a weapon that is focused on dealing cold damage. You're not really going to be doing any damage conversion, but you will be using the Atzuri Flask, the one that provides 15% at perfect rolls of your elemental damage added as additional chaos damage, and additionally provides 20% of your physical damage added as extra chaos damage. So if you deal 100 physical damage base, then you'll get 20 damage from the Atzuri Flask if it's perfectly rolled, less if you can't afford a perfect roll one, and then it'll be converted into a random element. Let's say it's randomly converted into cold damage. Then that'll be 100 cold damage. You'll then get another 15 from that. You can do further conversion shenanigans if you want, but I don't think you need to go there. I think that you probably want to build this without going full conversion and all the Eternity Shroud madness that you could do there. I think you just want to stack as many copies of the Sadist node as you can, and you can stack a lot of copies of Sadist now. You can get one added passive skill is Sadist on a large cluster jewel that has two jewel sockets in it, and then in each of those jewel sockets you can get a Megalomaniac that has Sadist as well. So that means that you can get in each cluster jewel that you start working in, you can get 180% increased elemental damage while you've been inflicting your ailments. That's a lot. That is a lot of added damage, and I think there's a way to build around it. Lastly, there is also the related unique item, Fate of the Vaal, which has sort of been forgotten about, and I don't think is strong enough anymore. I think that this is quite similar to a playstyle of how you would build around this item, but I think it could be better because you can use a genuinely good weapon with Reave. So yeah, if you can get around the clunkiness of Reave's close range playstyle, then this is looking good. Lastly, we have the Divination card Desecrated Virtue. This is very similar to the existing Divination card, the Cheetah. The Cheetah is a set of 3 and provides also a level 6 Awaken support, but it's also Crangled, but it's 20 quality. This is a step up at 23 quality, but for most of the Awaken support gems, it's a very, very, very small difference. However, people that are perfectionists will prefer a 623 over a 620. I think that this is going to cause the Divination card, the Cheetah, to drop in value because the ultimate rewards for this can be a little bit better. And it will do that even if the Divination card, Desecrated Virtue, is very, very rare. I kind of expect that it will be quite rare. I'm expecting it to be something that drops from a difficult to reach encounter as well. So there's been a bit of speculation on the Path of Exile subreddit about where this drops. One school of thought takes the stained glass background windows, takes the word avaricious and tyrannical, and from those three forms an opinion that this will drop in the Desecrated Temples map tile set. However, I disagree with this. I think that is possible. I'm very open to being wrong. But the reason that I think that this is going to drop from the Cortex is because Slivers of the Void is a very carefully chosen word, I think. Oh, it's a very carefully chosen term of phrase, I believe. And Slivers of the Void, anything related to the Void in this game, references the Elder. Then we have Virtuous, Avaricious, and Tyrannical. Well, that combination of three things is definitely the Templar as an institution. So what connects the Templar and the Void? The only thing that I can think of is High Templar Venarius's actions. The lore of the Synthesis League mapped this out a fair bit more, but basically what happened there was that High Templar Venarius discovered that Valdo Casarius, the Shaper, as we know him now, who was one of his underlings, he had discovered some great and mysterious and nasty power source in the dream worlds in the maps, and this ended up being the Elder. And ultimately, Valdo was then coerced by Venarius to go into a map with him, at which point Venarius freed the Elder from its prison, seeking to take over the Elder's power for himself. This, of course, didn't work very well, and Venarius lost all of his memories, which he then, during the Synthesis League, helped him regain, only to then realize, oh, we've created a monster. In terms of the lore of the game, though, the Elder is linked to Venarius. The Elder is linked to Venarius here because he was the person that united the Templar and the Elder, and that's why I think that this Divination card will drop from the Cortex. In any case, we're going to find out in a couple of weeks' time. Either I'm wrong, or the people that are saying that it's in Desecrated Chambers are wrong, or possibly we're both wrong. Maybe it's going to drop somewhere else entirely. Maybe it's going to drop in new content. We'll have to find that out. I do think this is going to be an interesting Divination card in trade leagues. If you're a solo self-found player, this card essentially does not exist for you. It's going to be one of those things that you could never realistically self-compile a set of. And I say that even knowing that there are people who are dedicated enough to self-compile a set of something like Beauty Through Death, or even of the Doctor, which is much harder than Beauty Through Death to self-compile a set of. There are people who will do that, but self-compiling a set of Desecrated Virtue is probably going to be beyond even those players. However, in trade leagues, it's going to mean that there will be a lot more 6/23 gems on the market, and they'll be available much earlier than they've been in previous leagues. With all of that in mind, I think this is going to be an interesting impact, and it's also probably going to be a card that's worth buying on day one if you can. So you'll see that there will be people who will find this in a Diviner's Strongbox very early on in the league and put it up for trade. If you can get your hands on these, I think they're going to increase in value over the league. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. That is the end of the news, except to say that there's going to be a lot of information about an exciting new race. I mentioned Zizaran earlier, the person who revealed these two alt quality gems. He is a Twitch streamer. He is organizing a massive race. There'll be a full information available on it tomorrow, but it looks like he's managed to get a sponsor, the e-commerce provider Shopify, and has managed to organize a prize pool of $40,000 and a whole bunch of microtransactions, which will be awarded as prizes for people who can kill Cirrus the Awakener very quickly at the start of the new league in hardcore. They'll need to kill him on Awakening level 8, so it's not going to be easy. And I do think that this is an event that will be, for participation-wise, this is going to be an event where only the very most elite players will be competitive. I know that I don't have the skills to compete in it, but it's going to be something that could be a lot of fun, both to participate in, even if you're not at Zizaran's skill level, you're not at the skill level of people like Steel Mage or the like that can actually be competitive in an event like this. But it can be something that is an enormous amount of fun to watch. And so if you're keen to check that out, there's a whole bunch of streamers that will be participating in it. I won't be, I'm still working at the moment, and so as a result, I'll probably end up having a little bit of a look at it, but I'll definitely suggest you check them out, check the information out. More information on that one tomorrow though.